They said I was collecting and tapping trees too early. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, but we sure did get some really, really good maple syrup out of the first couple runs of the season. Here in Michigan, generally the end of February is when we start kind of tapping trees around here, but it really varies from season to season. This year, we had a couple weekends that warmed up, and we had a few runs in earlier in February, and so I went out and tried to tap as many trees as I possibly could. And it ended up paying off for us because we ended up getting a good jump start on getting our trees tapped. And because of the system that we use, and I'll show you that when we get out into the forest here, even if the stuff freezes in the buckets, I'm still able to collect it and boil it. Our first run, although it was small a couple weeks ago, we just got 8 or 9 bottles, 12-ounce bottles of syrup out of the run. It was about 40 gallons of sap or so. But man, is this stuff awesome. Let me get you close in here and show you just how beautiful this syrup is. And I wish you could taste it because it is the best syrup that we have ever produced. So this is one of the bottles of our first run of the season, and this won't be for sale, unfortunately, just with 8 bottles. But this syrup right here, I don't know if you can see, I'll try to get you in the sunlight. With a really thick bottle even, it looks darker than it really is. This is a very, very light syrup, and I actually overboiled this just a little bit, so the sugar content is even a little bit above 66%. But the grades of the syrup are generally with the color of the syrup, so the lighter that it is, the higher the grade, I guess you could say, or different grade. The grade fancy or A. There's a couple grades of A, and then there's grade B, which I think is your darkest, like your darker later season stuff. But the early season, the first sap that runs in those trees is your best. It's the lightest, and it generally is also produces, has more sugar content in it. So it's actually giving you a little bit more syrup for the amount of sap that you have. So just a great first little short run for us here. So we have a few things to accomplish today. I need to get ready for a big run coming up this whole week and next week. It's going to be off and on. The sap's going to be running, looking at the temperatures if the Weather Channel is actually right, which I'm never really sure about, but let's hope it is. I have a little bit of work to do to the evaporator just to kind of prep it a little bit, get it ready. I've got some wood to collect. Generally when I do maple syrup, I collect all the wood when I'm out in the forest collecting sap anyway. And so I kind of separate this wood collection from burning, for heating our house and other things. So I'm going to collect some wood, get that all ready. And I also have a lot of frozen sap out in the bush right now, or in the maple forest as we call it. And I need to get that collected, or some of it collected, so we've got room in the buckets for the fresh sap to run into overnight tonight and over this weekend. Let me just show you the evaporator, and then we'll get out in the woods and collect some sap and collect some wood. I've talked a lot about this evaporator. It is cinder block, made of cinder blocks, and this big stainless steel pan. It's a flat pan. It's not anything special, and the whole thing cost me like under $50 because somebody actually gave me the pan. Thank you, Mom. So one of the things that happened last year is with expansion and contraction, things heating up and cooling down and all that stuff, these all cracked, and I really didn't do this like I should have, staggered them and mortared them and all that kind of stuff. I just stacked them and threw some Quikrete together and just testing out the whole thing, and it worked great. I'm going to mix up some cement, and we're going to just kind of run some along the edges here, just fill in some of these cracks and other things and fix the front of this up a little bit and just make it a little bit better. I ran it a couple weeks ago to boil off that first run, and it worked fine, but there was a lot of smoke leaking out and coming out everywhere in here, and so we'll try to prevent that as much as possible. If we get a little smoke, it's not a big deal, but I like to reduce that as much as I can. And then we're going to head out into the maple forest, which is right across the hayfields here. That's where the majority of our buckets are. There's some back further in the forest also, but the majority of them are right out here. So as the day warms up a little bit, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get the frozen sap out of those buckets and bring it in here. When whenever I'm mixing up concrete, especially in little batches like this, just in buckets, I generally like to start with it really wet. It's so much easier to mix in the bulk of it when it's pretty wet, and then I'll add a little bit more of the dry mix to it until I get it to just where I want it. This right here is pretty good. I can form it into a ball and it will stay pretty stuck together, but it's, you know, it's not running or anything like that, but it'll still allow me to kind of smooth it into these little small cracks and stuff. So that should be pretty good. I'm going to wet down all the cement that I have in here, all these concrete blocks, so that, you know, if it's dry like this and crumbly, this stuff just won't even stick to it. It'll just leave a gap there. So we're going to wet this whole thing down, and then we'll go ahead and seal up these cracks. All right, now it's time to start getting ready to run that boiler, run that evaporator. And we've got a lot of wood out here that's ready to be taken down. This is dead. It's been dead for a year or two. Probably might even be too dead. I don't know. We'll see if it's rotten or not. But and a lot of little limbs and other things in here, stuff that's, you know, got blown down. Just little stuff. That evaporator doesn't take real big logs, but I can cut some of these little trunks out and just kind of clean this up a little bit in here, and lots of little stuff through here we can grab. So that evaporator can take really long pieces of wood, which is nice. I don't have to cut it real short. I'm tempted to kind of try to back my truck down here as far as I can. It's not melted yet, but there's a lot of water underneath here. It's all frozen, so. Well, that's a good start, I think, for the first boil. That should get me through the first boil. A lot of this stuff is pretty rotten, and so these big ones, I'll probably just throw those right in the big outdoor wood boiler to heat the greenhouse. And I'm pretty sure that these were all covered in poison oak or something. So that sucks, but I guess we'll know for sure tomorrow. Most of the time in the winter, if it is poison oak, most of the time this stuff is, the oils are you know, less lethal, I guess you could say. So, but I don't have time to worry about that. We got to get wood. It'd be nice to have, you know, all this wood collected way ahead of time, and maybe some point in my life I'll be able to get ahead of these 3 wood burning operations that I have going here throughout the year. But as of right now, I really like coming out this time of year anyway. The ground is frozen. This whole thing behind me here will be all a big muddy wet mess over the next few days and week. As soon as this place thaws out, you'll see next week it's going to be a mess in here, and so I won't be able to get any of this wood out of here anyway. So this is really the only time of year I can do this, or late summer. And then this place is so nasty with mosquitoes that I don't even want to come out here. So I don't mind coming out. You know, it took me about an hour to get this load. This will get me through a boil, and you know, a couple days I'll come back out, get another load, and collect sap. And just kind of a routine I get into, getting out here in the woods and getting wood, getting sap, boiling, and just keep repeating as long as the sap is running. It doesn't look like much, but that will that'll boil for quite a long time in that evaporator. I've also got some pallets that are older or wet or mangled up a little bit, so we'll cut that up and we can throw that in there too. Those pallets, of course, burn really good. So this is what we've got for our first boil. So all that's left to do now is just to wait. Wait till temperatures warm up a little bit this afternoon more. Get that those buckets thawed out just a little bit, just enough to get the big chunks of ice out and sap. And then we'll start load that into the evaporator as we can get it out of the woods and get ready for a pretty big boil, I think, over the next couple days. Well, it's just about evening here, and the clouds came out. And the temperature really didn't get up as high as it was supposed to today, so not too much in the way of sap running. We got a little bit, but not much. So probably just grab a few of these buckets out here that are full of ice. I may just grab a few of the fullest ones just so there's room for sap to go into them tomorrow and the next day when the sap will hopefully be running a little bit better. That's a crazy bucket right there. How many taps are in this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 taps. So one of the reasons I really like collecting in these buckets rather than using the bag system. Bag systems are cheaper. I mean, you can get all the holders and then you can just get the new bags every year for those. There's nothing wrong with that on a large scale, and I may use some of those down the road. But with these buckets, I can usually start tapping a lot earlier, because even if the sap freezes in these buckets, I can still dump it out. It's really easy to dump the frozen chunks out and take those up and throw them in the evaporator. Now, a lot of people always want to tell me, just if there's ice in the buckets, to just throw that out because that's just the water and the sap, won't be frozen. That's only true maybe if their temperatures just barely drop below freezing at night and you've got some frozen, ice in there that you can pull out. That's probably true. But with this right here, it's been down to 2-3 degrees at night, and these buckets are frozen solid, sap and all. So and there's sap mixed in there in layers that thawed and froze, and it ran a little bit and then stopped. And so if I threw these big chunks of ice out, I'd be throwing a lot of sap out too. So I don't want to risk it. It doesn't take long to boil it down anyway, so I'd rather just take it all in there so I don't lose anything, and just boil it down all in the evaporator. Well, we've got quite a bit of sap already. I was only able to, I just cleared out the buckets that were the fullest. And this is the reason that even though I tapped super early this year, gosh, almost 3 weeks ago, maybe even more than that on my first taps, I was able to get kind of a jump start on the season. And so there really doesn't seem to be any disadvantage to tapping early when I'm using these buckets, because even if this stuff freezes, just like this, I can still get it out of the buckets and get it into the evaporator. If you're using bags, if they freeze in those bags, it's really hard to get a frozen solid chunk of ice out of those bags. So I really like using the buckets, whether it's these kind of buckets or the ones that hang right on the tree. Either way, the sap will come right out when it's frozen. there is definitely a lot of sugar still frozen into these blocks. So I know I said this earlier, but you can't really trust throwing out ice, you know, this much. I always assume that there is some sugar frozen in that ice somewhere. The 1% of sugar that's in that water doesn't settle out, and it doesn't really affect the freezing point very much, in my opinion anyway. So I know there's lots of people have different ideas on that, but so I was actually able to collect over 100 gallons of sap pre-season with tapping early. So that'll equate to almost 2 gallons of syrup for us. So I'm real happy with that. I think I might enter this in the county fair this year. They have a syrup contest, and this is the absolute best syrup that I've ever made. It is really, really good. So saving these ones for us, guys, sorry. But I will let you guys know when we have syrup available for sale. Last year, I think we had 10 gallons that we sold, and I'm hoping to get a lot more than that this year. So it depends on the season, but we'll see. We'll keep you guys updated on the totals. So just over 100 gallons of sap so far, and we'll keep you updated on how it goes. Don't forget to hit thumbs up on the video, guys. Subscribe if this is your first time to the SSL Family Dad channel. Lots of good stuff coming up, of course, as always. Coming into springtime, gardening's coming around the corner. We're gonna be doing lots of fun stuff this year. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.